Okay, I was just looking for an interesting way to intro this video, and I feel like that looked a lot cooler in my head than it did in reality. Okay, so I'm currently on Wilshire Boulevard, downtown LA. I was in Vegas in my last video, and I decided to take a day trip over to LA and fly home from here rather than from Vegas, just to make it like an actual vacation, since I worked all week long. All week I've been wanting to film a lens comparison. So this is the Panasonic Lumix G7. The only lenses I own are the 14-42 kit lens, 3.5 aperture if it comes with it, and the 25mm 1.7 that Panasonic sells. I use that for product shots, getting really nice bokeh, getting close to things, getting the details. I love that lens. So anyway, I picked up the 12-35 2.8 constant aperture lens, and I also picked up the 8-18 2.8 to 4 lens. I picked up the 12-35 so I could use it for on a tripod, my general purpose all-around lens. This is the lens I'm considering buying the most. But then for the 8-18, I got that for use on my gimbal because I was at a car show, trade show, so getting into tighter areas to get around cars, get around products, I knew there were going to be people everywhere, and so I got that lens to try out for that purpose. I've seen plenty of these lens comparisons on cameras like the GH5. However, I haven't seen them on the G7. The G7 crops more on 4K video, so that is important to know. I shoot in 4K, so I have that greater crop factor than the GH5 does. You know, these lenses cost significantly more and weigh a fair bit more than the camera itself even, so are they that much better? Do they improve the image quality that much? And do they buy you that much wider of a view? The field of view is the biggest thing to me, honestly, though I definitely want better image quality too. I mean, you can see right now at 2.8 at 12mm, I've got blown out background. I think this looks really good right now, especially with this wall, these leading lines coming right into my face. I like that. I can tell you before I even dive into this, the 12-35 is a little bit pickier about autofocus on this camera. That's because of the wider aperture, I'm sure. It's harder to find that perfect sweet spot for focus, so the camera has more trouble with it. Right now, I'm on manual focus. So, without further ado, here's some stuff I shot on the street out here outside the museum before we head in. This was all shot on the 12-35 2.8. Let's check it out, and I'll see you in a minute. Wait a minute. Oh, dang it, I jump cut too far again. Sometimes the magic of editing just backfires on you. Really, I didn't film the rest of this video while I was in LA. I didn't feel like it. I'm back in Massachusetts now. Actually, I'm in New Hampshire at work. Unimportant, doesn't matter. I can show you these lenses anyway. Right now, this is the 14-42 kit lens that comes with the Lumix G7. I am at aperture 3.5, 50 on the shutter speed, floating right around 0 on the exposure scale at ISO 200, so all the way bottomed out on this camera. I'm going to jump over to the 12-35 right now. Okay, now we're on the 12-35. I'm at 12 and I'm still at 3.5. Let me jump down. Bam. Now we're at f2.8, which this lens can go to. It is a constant aperture lens. I love that about this thing. So I'm a little bit better on exposure, just like 1 bar on the exposure chart over what I was on the other lens, which only went to f3.5. Everything else is the same. So you can see I've got a better field of view, and helping with the exposure is the fact that those are overexposed, those windows now, because I can actually see them. I couldn't see them in the last one that well. The stabilization on this lens seems to be better on this camera. However, I have noticed that the autofocus on this lens is not as good as the kit lens. That's probably down to the f-stop being at 2.8. I can get a better bokeh, I can get a nice blurred out background from this thing a little bit, and I really like that about this lens, but that means that there's a point where it needs to nail focus a little better, and it's not as easy to do. So this is the 12mm view, and I'm going to go ahead to the 8mm view, and then I'll show you the three of them kind of side by side if I can, to show you how they really work. Let's go to the 8mm. And look at that. Holy crap. This lens, man. It's got the slightest fisheye wide-angle lens effect going on. Like, look how big my hand is, but You get so much field of view with this. I'm sorry, I'm staring at the screen because I just can't get over it sometimes when I look at this thing. So this is at 2.8, 50, so all the same settings. I'm at 8mm right now on this thing. This is not a constant aperture lens, nor is it stabilized. However, I kind of find that since it's not stabilized, but it's wide, 8mm, that I really don't have a problem with it. Like, it seems pretty stable to me. I really like this lens. I was using this a lot last week with my gimbal. I used it at the car show because I could get up close to a vehicle and still get good angles on everything. All the crowds of people made it hard to step back like I would have to with either the 14 or 12mm lens. This one made my life significantly easier in that respect, but that's the only way I really used it. It's really hard to say whether the wide angle effect is maybe a little bit too much for my liking on this thing. It is kind of fun in some respects, in some ways. So personally, if I pick this thing up, if I keep it, if I get one, it's gonna be for use on my gimbal and probably only for use on my gimbal since it doesn't have a stabilized body on the G7, the lens isn't stabilized. I'm worried about that for using it as a vlog lens, though I wish I could get this close to this wide. Something like a 10mm would probably be the sweet spot on this camera, but I think there's only a cine lens in like at 10.5. I'll have to look around and see what I can find. That's these different lenses. It's up to you which one works for you. I just wanted to show them on the Panasonic G7 rather than the GH5 like everybody else shows them on. I don't know what you guys think of these things. Personally, that 12 to 35, that thing is king. Like, this lens, that was my go-to all week last week. It was the best all around for everything I was trying to do. This 8mm lens is tiring me out a little bit, so I think I'm gonna wrap this video up. That has been the comparison of these different lenses on Panasonic Lumix G7. Clearly, this is not an in-depth review. I'm not telling you what's right for you. I'm not giving you major details on these things, just showing you how they work on this camera. That's it, folks. Hope you found this at least somewhat interesting. See ya. Oh, that's the other thing, by the way. If you try to do the old cover the lens thing, you really gotta try on this 8mm lens. Like, it's a lot of real estate to cover. My hands aren't the smallest things. Whatever, see ya.